Well, hi there. I'm going to go ahead and go over the code that I covered on the first part of firing projectiles. So here's what we're going to be shooting for here at the end of this whole exercise. It's going to be multiple parts of video. When we press the G key, we'll be able to press the control key when we're flying in order to fire a projectile. And I don't know if I'm going to get lucky here or if I'm going to be able to kill all. Nope, I didn't. But if we eliminate all the enemies, we're going to get a win screen that's going to come up. And we'll see that later. But as you saw from the demo there, we're going to be able to fire a projectile. Let's go ahead and close that out. And let me return back to 100% size. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up our projectile global variables. So our projectile global variables, there are 5 of them. And they would be the very first one, and I'm going to enable the caps lock key, will be projectile speed, which we're going to set to 10. And then after our var projectile speed, I'm going to copy var projectile underbar and paste it because I need that. We're also going to have a projectile radius that we're going to set equal to 5. So projectile radius equal to 5. After the projectile radius, we can go ahead and turn off caps lock. And we're going to have a var projectile array will equal an empty set of square brackets. A var projectile, which we're going to set equal to null. And lastly, a var called projectile image, which we're going to set equal to a new web image. Remember that the W has to be capitalized and the I has to be capitalized in web image. And I'm going to set myself up here with my parentheses, my double quotes, and my terminator. And then I will go back to our assignment on Google Classroom. On our assignment on Google Classroom for each class, you're going to find this Code High School upload link right here. If you'll right-click that link and select Copy Link, you can come back to your project and find the right one. Whoop, there it is. And you can paste that link. That is the link that we're going to have for our projectile image. So this would be a good spot to probably pause your video and make sure that you have all of these spelled correctly. Also would be a good place to make sure when you hit the run button and you press G that everything still works, that you don't have any serious syntax errors on those first 5 lines of code that you did. Now, we're done with those. Go down a little bit here. There are some game management variables that we need to add. Game management variables. The first game management variable we're going to add, these are all Booleans. Game management variables are usually Booleans. See that up there in the comment? This one's going to be called check enemy ship. And we're going to initialize it as false. We're going to have another variable called check projectile. And we're also going to initialize it as false. These 2 Boolean variables will be used when we're checking collisions. You'll see them later. Get those 2 set up. Hit the run button, make sure everything still works, that, adding line 74 and 75, you didn't break any rules. And then we can move on to the next variables we're going to add. The next variables we're going to add are going to be 2 text variables. Right here after var instruction 3, I'm just going to copy var instruction 3. I'm going to copy that whole line of code for instruction 3. And then right underneath it, I'm going to paste it. But I'm going to change its name. I'm going to change its name from instruction 3 to instruction 4. And I'm going to change the press G key to start to press control key to fire. Press the control key to fire. That's going to set up instruction 4. And we also need to set up a win text. Win text is going to be equal to a new text, and it's going to be very similar to our lose text. So I'm just going to grab it from right there and paste it, and I'm going to change my ouch to you win. Save button. I'm going to hit my run button to make sure that I didn't break any syntax rules while I set that up. And this would be a good spot to make sure that your instruction 4 and your win text, that they're ready. Good spot to pause the video here. Once you've checked that, we're going to scroll on down here. And now we need to think about what it is we're going to try to do. We want to fire a projectile. We want to be pressing the control key. Pressing the control key is what's going to make that projectile fire. So I know I put this question to the class, what function should I go look at if I want to be detecting key presses? And in my first block class, Maricela in the back of the room said, key down. And she's right, the key down function. Ooh, there's instruction 4. We'll be adding that later too. But if I scroll down to the key down function, here's the key down function. This function, the key down method, gets and, could you fix that comment, please? And responds to various key presses. Fix that comment. The key down method gets and responds to various key presses. Already we're getting the press of the letter G. And when the letter G gets pressed, we're, setting game active to true, removing all of our instructions from the screen. And I forgot an important one we're going to make sure we have to do. But we'll catch it when we're in first block. And then down here, you're going to see there's some new code. Check for fire projectile. And then there's a call, the fire projectile function. Well, in the if statement, I need to replace that with 3 different conditions that must be true. All 3 of these conditions have to be true in order for me to be allowed to fire a projectile. So the first condition is going to be, hey, did I press the key code? Did I press the key code for control? That makes me want to open this back up. Can you remember where we got that line of code from? Hopefully you're thinking, we got that code off of the Docs tab, in particular off the keyboard events of the Docs tab. There we copied that line right here, and we changed the K to a G, and that made that line 211 there work for us. What we want for checking for the projectile firing is we want to copy e.keycode equal to keyboard.left. That will get us almost everything we want. And then I'm going to paste that right there. And then the left is going to get replaced with CTRL. They have to be all capital. If they're not all capital, it won't work, as more than one student found out in first block. But like I said, there are 3 conditions that have to be true. Yeah, pressing the control key, that's an important condition. But I also need to make sure that my projectile is equal to null. And that's the way that I created it. When I just made the projectile variable, back up here, when I made that projectile variable, after making it, the first thing I did was set it equal to null. That way it equals nothing. It equals nothing. And it'll definitely be throwing null. So when I check this, pressing that control key that first time, both these conditions they'll be good. I'll get the control key, the projectile's null, but the last thing I also need to make sure is that game active is equal to true. Because I only want to be able to fire if game active is true. If game active is true, that's when I want to fire. So if those 3 conditions are met, control key got pressed, and the projectile currently is null, and game active is equal to true. Then I want to call fire projectile. Please try not to be that one student who didn't put his parentheses on the function call. The function calls fire projectile with the parentheses. That will call the fire projectile function. Now, my starter code. It did not get the new and improved starter code. Why is that? I thought I fixed that. I sure hope I fixed that. Anyway, you should have a comment here that says something like, create a comment like that. Create a spawn location. There should be some lines of space there. Maybe I should have reset it to my starter code. Tell me I did. Flaming skulls. Oh, I know why. Anyway, you'll be all good because I did fix it in the starter code. That comment should be there. So we're going to create a variable, and it's going to be called spawn x. And spawn x is going to be equal to my vehicle dot get x. I want to get the x position of the vehicle. Plus, I want to add to that my vehicle width, and I want to add to that my projectile radius. That's going to get me the x position that I want to spawn the projectile at. Now I need to get a y position. So this will be var spawn y. And that will be vehicle dot get y. Don't forget the parentheses, plus the vehicle height divided by 2. That'll take care of our spawn y, our position that we're going to spawn our projectile in y. Then we're going to go ahead and spawn our projectile. Spawning of the projectile is going to look like this. We're going to take our projectile and set it equal to our projectile image. So we're going to take our projectile and we're going to make it equal to our projectile image. Remember, when we created our projectile image, we already loaded a web image into that. So this is containing a web image. We're just going to load it right into our projectile. That means our projectile is no longer going to be null. Our projectile is going to have something in it. It won't be null anymore. So once we've done that, we won't be able to fire another one because it won't be null anymore. You can keep pressing that control key, but no more projectiles will fire until that projectile is set back to null. So we're going to load an image in it, and then we're going to set its position. So let's see. Projectile dot set position. And the position we're going to set it in is spawn x for the x, spawn y for the y. And then if we want to see it, if we want to get it on the screen, we need to add the projectile to the screen. That's going to make something happen. Now something is going to happen. Press my G key, press my control key, and there is a projectile. Now it spawns. I can't spawn anymore. I can only spawn one. Because as soon as I put the projectile image inside of the projectile variable there on line 241, projectile was no longer null. So it won't matter how much I press the control key. The projectile's got something in it. We have to deal with that. Well, to deal with it, we need to get it moving. I'm going to take that projectile and we're going to make it move using the projectile speed for its speed and 0 for its change in y. Now, a small change. When we press the control key, the projectile now, it spawns and it moves 10 pixels ahead of our ship. But then it stops moving, and that's because move projectile has nothing in it. So let's deal with move projectile. Move projectile will need to get called. I'm going to copy move projectile with its parentheses. It needs to get called inside the game function. The game function is the main function. And if game active is true, if that variable game active is true, we just saw that a moment ago, we're going to update our score, check for clicking, move our vehicle, move the enemy ships, check for collisions, make our particles move, add a new particle, and lastly, if there's any active projectiles on the screen, we need to move those active projectiles. So add that function call to move projectile right there on line 203. Got that added on line 203? Going, gone. So now, here in the move projectile function, I've got lots of comments. First, we're going to check if the projectile exists. We're going to check to see, is it no longer equal to null? If it's no longer equal to null, then we're going to be making it move. And then after we make it move, we got to check if it's gone off screen. And if it's gone off screen, we're going to have to handle that. We're going to have to remove the projectile. Your starter code should already have that. And set it to null. So we're going to remove the projectile and we're going to reset it to null. Then if we haven't removed it from the screen though, then we're going to be checking to see if we hit something. And if we hit something, we're going to handle that. We won't get to that today. Today we're only going to be getting to where we can fire it. If it goes off screen, we can reset it. And then there'll be one more bonus activity. We're going to get that instruction number 4 on the screen. Because right now, there's no instruction telling us how to fire. I've just told you to press the control key. We're going to have to formalize that. But it's okay. Even though I'm out of order, it's all right. Checking if the projectile exists. That means I want to check to see if my projectile is not equal to null. Not equal. That's the exclamation point and the equal symbol. Those two characters, when they're next to each other in JavaScript, they translate into not equal to. So I'm checking to make sure that the projectile is not equal to null. When we first created the projectile up here in the variables, we created it and we created it null. As soon as we press the control key calls fire projectile, and fire projectile sticks the projectile image into projectile. When that happens, it's no longer null. It's not equal to null. So move projectiles will pick up on that. It'll go, oh, hey, man, there's something there. It's not equal to null, so it needs to do something. And the first thing it needs to do is we'll copy and paste line 246, because that's all. Just straight copy and paste. One of those wonderful, rare moments where all you got to do is copy and paste. Nothing to change. And now something will happen. When I press the G key, there goes our projectile. But I can press the control key and nothing happens. That's because we have something else to do. But before we do that, let's make this just a little more interesting. Rotate. Projectile.rotate. Let's give it a 30-degree rotation. Projectile.rotate. When I press my G key now now it's rotating. It's like a flying ninja star. But we only get to see it once because, well, once it's gone off screen, we're not handling that yet. Does your projectile fire? Does it rotate? Now, checking if it's gone off screen. I need to look to see when the projectile has gone past the edge of the screen. So here's the Boolean expression that I'll check for. If projectile.getX is greater than screen width plus projectile radius. If the projectile's X position is bigger than the screen width plus the radius of the object, I know it has gone off screen. If that's the case, I have to remove a projectile. And I have to then set that projectile back equal to null. So if it goes off screen, I remove it, and then I set it back equal to null. And now, when the projectile goes off screen, I can fire again. And I'm free to fire at will. Of course, we're not checking those collisions yet, but hey, one step at a time. Now I can fire multiple shots. Now, I thought about starting this in first block, but there was only 5 minutes left, and so I thought better of it. My goal here then for today is to then, I need to get my instruction 4 on the screen, because at the moment, instruction 4 is not showing up. I've set instruction 4 up. There it is. Press Control key to fire. There it is. I've got the instruction set up. However, down here in the setup function, instruction 4 doesn't have anything underneath it. Well, I'm going to steal instruction 3, just its executable lines of code. I'm going to grab instruction 3, set position, set color, and add, and I'm going to paste them right there. And then I need to change every 3 to a 4. All my instruction 3s need to change into instruction 4. Then there's one more thing, because otherwise this instruction will be sitting right on top of instruction 3. Instead of setting it to middle height plus 100, I'm going to set it to middle height plus 140. And when I run this, press my G key, there is one problem. We gots to remove it. When I press my G key, I need to remember to remove instruction 4. Surprised nobody in first block reminded me or told me that. Mr. Booth, the instruction doesn't remove. It didn't tell me, but now all the instructions remove. I can fire at will. All my instructions appear at the start, but when I press the G key, they all disappear. And we're ready to go to the next step here of this project. Thanks. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.